We have so many stories in our lives, but our stories are not always heard. On the Hear My True Story podcast, we tell our own true stories.
Before the white car parked, our head teacher had scattered. Looking at him, I could only see his tie that was flying backwards, waving at us, and he disappeared in thin air.
I want to share my life story. I want to share my voice with the people because I know that just a small joke I can tell through this podcast, it will make someone smile.
When you ask me what I fear most in life, I would definitely respond to you and say it's fear itself.
We are fighting for togetherness. We are fighting for equal rights. We are fighting to end injustice.
You don't have to be a storyteller or writer because, guess what? Life writes the best stories.
Hear my true story.
This is your favorite time of the week with your number one podcast.
Hear my true story. Welcome to a brand new episode. Hear my true story.
Yeah, our dear listener, thank you so much for being with us today again. Hear My True Story podcast with Otako and CJ. Yeah, I'm happy to have you again on this wonderful conversation. Our dear listeners, we are really sharing our personal experiences, but now we want to talk about our cultural experience with the food here in Europe. I mean, let's say, be clear, in German. So, CJ, how was it for you?
My very, very first day, I arrived at noon. I was picked up from the airport and I reached my place where I'm going to stay. I had no food. I had to go shopping. So the girl that I was staying with at the moment, she's like, I'm going to show you where the supermarket is, but unfortunately I don't have time to go with you. So I was like, okay, no problem. So I reached big supermarket. I was like, okay, Aldi. I was like, okay, where do I start from? I only needed bread, nothing else, only bread. So I went and reached. My German was not that good. I knew how to express myself, but I was not yet that confident. So I reached. I saw bread, like a whole wall, like one side of the supermarket is bread. And I was like, okay, what? I only want one bread. Which bread should I take? So I started walking, and people, I think, okay, where I stayed was a village. So people knew each other, knew where everyone is staying. So they see a new face. No one wants to interact with a new face. And first of all, I'm black, and then I'm new. So everything collides at the same point. So I walked. I was like, I wanted to ask someone for help to tell me maybe which kind of bread is good or which kind of bread I can take because I had no idea. And then I walked. So when one guy was walking towards me, so I said, "Entschuldigung, excuse me." He was walking away. He did not pay attention. I don't know if I was speaking so slowly or maybe he did not want to help me. But for me, I took it a bit personal that he did not want to help me. I said, okay, I don't give up easily. So I waited for someone else. I stood next to the door. So when I was saying Entschuldigung, someone was passing me very fast and taking the next corner that he found. I was like, okay. So I gave up. I was like, no, I cannot do anything now. I really don't want to just take any bread and reach home and I cannot eat it. So I went out of the supermarket and then I waited for my friend.
Please wait. I mean, like, I want to ask you. Did you manage to get did you manage to ask people Yeah. Did you manage to ask people there that, please, I need your help? I mean, why did they just walk away? What is your feeling? What do you think? What was the problem?
As I said before, is that it is a small village, first of all. I was new.
Do you think it is so difficult? I mean, like, for you as your first experience, you asked people, please, I need help to buy bread. Yeah. And then people are just walking away. You asked the first person, that person walked away. You asked the second person, they walked away. Your feeling, do you think it's because you were new, or is it because you were looking different from the usual people they know?
I think I was looking different from the people that they know or from the people that they are used to, because it's not just in that one day I experienced really very much. It did not just happen in the supermarket, because so on that day they also had a show, because I was working in a school. They had a show where people came for playing or making acrobatics, and they made a tent there. So my friend, she said that we can enter, so we entered, and I paid money. We entered, and the moment I entered, because my friend was also new, she came like one day before me. Everyone was looking at me. Everyone. Trust me, I reached a moment I could not stay there, because people are not concentrating on what they came to see. Rather, they were concentrating on me. And I was the only black person there. So after some point, I told my friend, I'm really tired. I told her, I'm so tired. I want to go sleep, because I had my flight that day. But I really wanted to see the acrobatics. But I felt like I was too controlled. I felt like people are looking at me, and I really don't want to be stared at so much. So I decided to go home. Yeah. But also this bread thing in the supermarket, I think I will never forget that moment. I will never forget how I felt at that moment, like not being helped when you're asking for help. I remember we also made a podcast about that. Yeah. Because I did not try to ask the people who are working there, because the people were busy at the moment, and I felt like, okay, someone is working at the cafe where I cannot tell her to come with me to show me which bread I can take. So I just decided to go home, and so I waited for my friend. When she came back, she went and bought for me bread.
That experience, your feeling was like, you felt, of course, you felt not welcome. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think, is it difficult really to buy bread in German for you?
It's so difficult.
Why?
Even now, they have a lot of bread, a lot of sorts of bread. Somalische Brot, Kernbrot, Weißenbrot, Weißbrot, Roggenbrot. They have a lot of bread. I cannot even mention all of them. They have a lot of bread. And I don't know if they all do the same function, or it is the same function to be eaten and to make you healthy, or to be eaten and make you satisfied. They have toast bread, and I really don't know. Even right now, it is a very challenge for me to buy bread. When I go to the supermarket to buy bread or to the baker, I need 20 minutes or 30 minutes to.
Yes, for now, our dear listeners, let me make this out as we try to work out this. Yeah, so listen to this, our dear listeners.
Enjoying this episode? Leave a review now.
Hear my true story. Hit subscribe and don't miss the next episode. Hear my true story.
Yeah, our dear listeners, thank you so much for really following us on our podcast, and please subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube, and also you can find this podcast on all platforms for podcast streaming. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really happy to again continue with our conversation. Yes. Yeah. So Caro, you were saying, I asked this question, is it really difficult to buy bread in German? and why?
Yeah, as I was saying, that it is really, really, really difficult to buy bread, or to, only maybe if you're specialized in that, or if you know so much about wheat, or you know so much about ingredients, or you know so much about how to make bread, then it is very easy for you. But for someone who is ignorant in this field, it is hard, because they have a lot of different sorts of bread. The baker makes a lot of different kinds of bread, and I think that people do not buy all of this bread at like in a day, because they keep on making maybe new ones every moment or every hour, and it is so difficult for me. Even right now, it takes a lot of time to just find bread which I want to eat. If I go with someone to the baker, I tell them, please choose the bread. I don't put myself to this pressure or to this task for me to find bread. Nay, I just say, please look for bread. For me, it's okay. It's okay which kind of bread. But sometimes I go to buy bread, and I'm like, I will just pick the bread that I first look at when I reach there is the bread that I'm buying. So I go. When I'm about to enter, I close my eyes. So when I open my eyes like this, the first bread I see is the first bread I take. But sometimes I end up taking bread which is so hard. My teeth are so bad. So, and then I'm like, okay, now I know this. So for me, I'm challenging myself. I eat bread so much for breakfast. The thing which I do is that I want to know a bit of bread too. It's like something that I have. It's like a task right now in my life, that every time I go to the baker or to the supermarket, I buy a different type of bread, and I make sure that what I bought last time, I know it. I realize it. It's maybe from the look, or maybe from the name, but the names are really hard to remember. So from the look. And now the problem is when they use the same dough to make this other type of bread, but in the same look. So then I don't know. I end up taking the other bread, because some breads have the same figures. They're like people. Some are fat, some are thin, some are small, some are tall. Yeah, bread.
Okay. Yeah, I want to just ask you this other question about bread. I mean, what was your first experience when you ate bread as food here in German?
You mean bread for dinner?
I mean, like dinner or lunch.
I experienced that in a family where I went. Oh my God! I at first when I had never heard of that Germans eat bread for dinner, and so they bring it on the table. So for me, I'm waiting for us to cook. I'm waiting for the food. So they bring the bread and the salami, the queso, the cheese, everything that goes on the bread, they put on the table. So for me, I was sitting waiting for food, and then they started eating. They were like, yeah, please let the food, let it be nice, or put in appetite. And then I was like, where is the food? And they were like, oh, this is the food. For us, we don't eat food for dinner. We only eat bread. I'm like, what? You only eat bread? Why? Do you even get satisfied? How do you eat? First of all, they eat before 8, or not after 18, after 6 or before 6. So you go to bed at 11. There are like hours in between. And you had bread for dinner. You had lunch at 12. Yeah? So I really expect myself to be hungry. I was not happy about this bread idea. And for me, they were like, oh, but if you want something, you can eat something all the time. And I'm like, I don't want to eat after 10, but I want to be satisfied when I eat. And they're like, oh, okay, please forgive us. Next time when you're coming to our place, we will cook for you food for dinner. But then I felt bad that I'm being demanding. So I told them, no, it's okay. But I never wanted to go back to this family again because of bread. But after that, I saw it in almost every family, almost of the families. So I saw, okay, they don't have a problem. It's me who has a problem, who doesn't want to eat bread as for dinner. But even after and up to now, I don't eat bread for dinner. I cook my food, eat heavy. I still survive. Yeah.
Okay, that is really interesting. Yeah. Personal, also I had an experience when I just came to German, and then I was given bread for dinner. Like it was in 2017, I think. We had a performance in Cologne, and then the dinner was bread at the hotel. I said,
At the hotel?
yeah, where we are hosted. I was like, what's this? And I was like, they said, yeah, that's, dinner. I was like, eating bread. All Ugandans, we are like 7 Ugandans. We moved out of the hotel and we went to buy pizza. Who eats bread? We are like, who eats bread for dinner? I mean, it was first a shock. I didn't understand why people eat bread. But then after this long time, and then I get to learn, your bread is quite important here in Europe, as not so much like in Uganda where we eat food. Of course, there's a lot of food. I grew up in a village, in a small village in Uganda where we go to the garden, you pick food from the garden, you cook it, and dinner you eat cooked food. Here, bread in Uganda is so expensive, and people don't eat it as dinner. What people eat is bread for breakfast. Yeah, this kind of white bread as for breakfast. Here, German, there are so many breads, and you get confused. And now I remember I was in Göttingen in learning German, and then there was a friend of mine from Kenya. We all came the first day, and then me, because I'd experienced already bread as dinner, so I bought myself some bread. Then the guy went to the supermarket. He could not choose. He doesn't know all the food there. He knows ugali, because you are from Kenya, you know ugali. Then he asked me, now, what do I buy? There's no ugali here. I was planning to cook ugali, like for dinner. He doesn't like spaghetti. He doesn't like bread. And the first night, he bought only, these snacks, like, chocolate, what, on those things. And I told my brother, you need to eat real food. You need to eat either bread or eat food. And it was hard for him. It was really hard for him to understand that people eat bread for dinner. And I saw this.
Sorry for interrupting, but this one is really so good. It's inching me.
Yeah, you can share it.
There is also my friend. He came. When he came, he also did not want to eat bread. He did not want to eat anything. He felt like the food is for him. He felt like the food is not real food. So the only food that he knew was chicken. So he was eating chicken every day, getting chicken, putting it in the oven, and then eating. Not even just maybe putting salt. First of all, he didn't know how to cook, or he doesn't know how to cook. Second of all, he doesn't like the food. And the other thing, he doesn't know how to use this online shopping or online thing that he can order food online. So he's like, to save my energy, I buy chicken. He buys this whole chicken, packed chicken, puts salt, puts in the oven, bakes, removes, eat. I visited him and he was giving me the same chicken. I was like, my friend, I can't eat this. I would rather eat bread for dinner than eating this chicken with nothing.
So you ended up becoming integrated very well. I mean, for anyone listening to this podcast, you come to German, you need to be integrated, and you need to learn how to eat bread for dinner. Yeah, we learned that. Yeah. So, anyway, I would like to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share about the culture shocks with the food? Kartoffeln?
No, maybe one thing I want to say is that I really like Käsespätzle.
What is that?
It is a Bayern or a South German food. It is really, really nice with cheese on top, with sometimes they put onions, and I will show it to you, don't worry. It is really nice. It is my favorite food now. Everyone who is listening to our podcast, Käsespätzle is my favorite food.
What? I didn't hear it well. You can maybe What is it called? I didn't hear it well. As me, Otako.
I will show you pictures. I really don't know how to explain it, but it is also like noodles somehow, but it's also made from wheat, and they put egg inside to make the dough, and then after they, I don't know how they make it, but it's really,
nice
really
food.
nice.
To be clear, there's really nice food here in German too that you can eat, from kartoffel to bread. Yeah, when you talk about soup, I didn't know about soup because in the kitchen I knew we didn't have so much soup in Uganda. So, but when I moved to Europe here in German, I had to learn how to take soup, and now I try to learn to take soup. Even when they cook it in the kindergarten, I eat soup.
We not only have voices for a podcast, but also faces for YouTube. Don't miss your next episode. Hear my true story.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Music by Edwin Matovo, hosted and produced by Otako. Subscribe to our podcast for more stories and visit us on our website, hearmytruestory.com, for more stories. All the links are listed in the show notes of this podcast.